All right. Hello. Welcome to the Artificially Intelligent Podcast, where a white cracker-ass hunky American comedian, that's me.
What you call me?
Yeah. Speaks with his bestest bud, a black African-American person of color musician. That's you. That's you. And today we have a guest. And this is my favorite part, is where I say it's Jack Matirko, but then I always second guess myself and say, did I say his name right? How close am I?
You're close. You flip the R in the I. Everybody does it. It's
Matirko?
Matirko.
Matirko. Well, either way, Rob Halford cosplayer and
I am kind of rocking that right now, right?
Yes.
I have the earrings too. So
Oh,
so I go with Mr. Clean's Merchant Marine cousin. I think
fair enough.
He's a pretty good fair shot at me. Yeah.
Well, we should be honest. The reason I always say, because I always screw his name up. And this is the second time we've spoken. The second time we've recorded as a group. Now, I've mentioned it in passing, and then we got off topic. Jack is a Satanist, and after we recorded the first time, the computer ate the file, so it was never broadcast. And I guess why I'm saying that is, if the computer eats the file this time, I think Jesus is trying to send us a message.
Or the Prince of Darkness doesn't like his representation.
That's true. Speaking of darkness, you never got rid of that shading on the right side of your face. Why don't you put a light on your face? It's already hard enough to see you.
Uh-huh.
So we're trying this a second time. We just had lighting issues. I'm going to edit all that out. You missed very exciting stuff, listener and or viewer. So we're trying this a second time. Jack is back. With purpose this time. Last time we spoke to Jack, and we'll do it again because, as said, nobody heard it. We asked, why Satan? On this program, we have talked to a super Christian. We've talked to a preacher that sort of walked away from things. We talked to everybody's favorite atheist, Andrew, and you're a Satanist. And Barrett and I, what are we? Are we agnostic atheists? Have we ever figured that out?
I'm not sure what I am these days.
All right. Well, you're here with purpose because you wrote a book, Needs Must, Life and Times of Satanic America, 2017 to 2021. Very specific few years. Usually you see a chronicling of an era. This is just 4 years. It must have been an exciting 4 years to want to just write about that section.
Well, that was actually a process of legal wrangling, because all of the stuff that's in the book was from the content on my Patheos blog, for infernal use only. Patheos had a buyout, and the entire non-religious section migrated to a new site, Only Sky, which you're writing at too, right?
Yeah, I'm writing on there.
Yeah, and so as part of that, the agreement that everybody had with Patheos was allowed to just have our stuff on their blogs forever, right? But then about 2 months ago, they unceremoniously just took it all down, which meant that
Patheos is gone. The entire website is gone.
No, just all the non-religious stuff from those of us who left.
Oh, okay.
So all that content that I spent 4 years working on was no longer available to anybody, and rather than put it up on the blog and get a few clicks here and there for stuff that was 4 years old, it seemed to make more sense to compile it all into a book and say, if you're interested in this stuff, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to what I said about our first conversation being eaten by the computer, you didn't look at this as a sign from Jesus or your Dark Lord as maybe he doesn't want this out there, like Barrett said.
No. And even if he does, it's not my problem, right?
Not my problem. Fair enough. All right, so it's a series of blogs, it's a series of articles, it's a series of musings of what's going on in the satanic world. And again, this is like your last name. I always get this wrong. You are a member of and I'll let you fill it in, because there's the Satanic Temple, there's the Church of Satan, there's there are all these little, we made the joke last time and I love it. It's a good joke. It's kind of like the scene in The Life of Brian. It's the Judean People's Front. It's the People's Front of Judea, splitters.
There's been like 4 of them.
Yes.
Since the Satanic Temple started, there's been like 3 or 4 little offshoot groups that have
Is it
splintered
like
off
you
from
leaving
them.
Pathos? Are the offshoot groups of people like, I've had it with this? Is it so? It's the Satanic Temple, is what you remember of.
It's this, yeah, the Satanic Temples are a
Okay,
member.
and
Yeah.
so the new groups are those people that have given the middle finger to the Satanic Temple.
Yeah, for one reason or another. Sometimes it's a conflict of interest, or sometimes it's a difference of opinion, and sometimes it's personal drama. And it's the same as any other group of
Yeah.
people once you get them together, you know.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you had to quantify the differences between how many of them, like I'm sure there's plenty of like 10 people spin-off groups that nobody knows about, but in terms of the major three or four,
Mhm.
what are the primary differences between them?
Uh, I would say that Church of Satan leans more right wing authoritarian,
Mhm.
and Satanic Temple is definitely the more left leaning of the groups
Okay, wait.
in
So
Satanism.
the Church of
I don't
Satan,
want to mix religion and politics too much, but I mean that does
right?
pretty much seem
But I
like
mean,
my
okay.
gauge of
So
just the way the groups have shaken out. That
when you
seems to be
say
that
right leaning, give me an example.
you know, they would tend to be more libertarian, I think.
Sure. Okay. And
Very
then,
small government, individual liberty, blah blah blah.
mm-hmm.
I had a thought, then I lost it. Oh, you know what this makes me think of is it makes me think that Satanism is catching up with the other religions of the world, because I am someone who they say you have to hear something 7 times in order for it to sink in and make sense. Um, I know for a fact that people have explained this to me, and it's like Chinese food. A half an hour later, I'm just like, huh? I don't understand the difference between Catholicism, Christianity, the Baptists, I don't know, Branch Davidians, are they still a thing? I don't understand any of the differences between them, between the Pope and a minister. And it sounds like Satanism is catching up with that, where you start and you're like, yay, we're different, we're Satanists. And suddenly it's like, oh, now we're getting these little offshoots because it's there's no, it's human nature. You want to unify, but at the same time, like you said, we're unified. Well, I disagree with this. Fuck you. And now we're going to create our own thing. And it's
And
also
that's particularly a problem in Satanism, where everybody's kind of a little uh,
dickish.
dickish and well, so, I don't want to say self-centered because that's the wrong word, but very, you know, focused on your wants and needs, and that tends to attract, you know, some narcissists, and which causes drama. And somebody comes into a group and they're like, well, I want to take it over and run it and do my own thing, and then they get mad that they can't take it over and they go start their own thing.
Which they could have done in the first place. They could have
Right.
just said, I like this, but I'm gonna so
But if
let's
you,
go. We've been dancing around the issue, and this is something, again, I'm gonna stop saying we talked about this last time. I'm just gonna start flowing the conversation. Why Satan? My biggest hangup is Satan. I mean, it causes such a knee-jerk reaction in so many people that if you had just gone and said, okay, we're going to take, because when I look at the temple and I've looked at the Wikipedia page and I see they're like, instead of 10 commandments, there are a series of rules or things to abide by. I said, this all makes sense. This is very logical. And then you put Satan on top of that, and it's like, yeah, I'm not interested. And you're this is someone that gives no shit about religion, agnostic, atheist. I have no idea. But even I go, I just I don't need the hang up. I don't need the baggage of saying I'm a Satanist, and because so many people get turned off. So why not? Here are these great ideas, and we worship the flying spaghetti monster because at least that's neutral and it doesn't get such a knee-jerk reaction.
Well, I think the knee jerk reaction is kind of part of it, like very much the same way. I don't know if you remember back maybe 10, 12 years ago when the atheist community went through this, where they wanted to start, you know, oh, we shouldn't use the word atheist because that turns people off. So we're going to call ourselves humanists, or we're going to call ourselves, you know, brights or
No,
whatever.
I don't remember that, but
And
continue.
that never seemed to work. Like when you, if you're trying to make the point that, you know, all religions are equal and any religion is okay against, you know, a government that's full of Christians, then bringing up their bad guy and saying, well, this gets to be okay too, makes the point way better than, oh, you know, we don't want to say that there that whatever religion is not allowed, right? Like, you don't get to say that another religion isn't allowed, even if the majority thinks that religion is bad, right? As long as that religion's not doing anything illegal or wrong, or, you know.
Well,
And is it also, so I guess, and I guess that makes sense. It's sort of a branding thing. Satan is already here. People, even if they don't understand what you're about, you don't have to explain to them they get it. It's like a big neon light. Okay, here you have Jesus, here you have Satan. What does it take that you've discovered to get people over the hurdle of, no, we're not sacrificing babies and sacrificing animals and drinking blood and, you know, chanting and wearing robes? What does it take people to get over that hurdle? And as you answer that question, I suppose we should tell people what your church is about, what the temple is about. And when I said I read the tenets of the temple, I'm like, well, these make sense. I'm not interested in joining, but I get it. So two-part question, and answer in reverse order. What does the temple stand for? And what have you discovered it takes to get people over the hurdle of Satan? I don't know.
Well, I think in terms of what the temple stands for, if you, like I said, if you read the 7 tenets, that's the only actual like text document that they have that is.
You keep talking. I'm going to pull them up and I can read them when you are finished.
Yeah. Well, it's mostly, you know, bodily autonomy, scientific understanding.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. That's why I said I'll read them. You just
yeah.
So what does it take to get people over that hurdle?
I think a lot of conversation, like once you get past, okay, we don't actually worship Satan, it's just this kind of figurative literary metaphor. Once you're past that part, it just takes a little bit of, well, okay, let me show you these passages from you know, John Milton, and why I think that this character is actually, like, you know, there is a certain amount of almost fandom to it.
but I mean, like, if your text is coming from Milton, right, rather than the Bible, the Torah, the whatever, then how different is this from like a Harry Potter fan club where everybody believes in the tenets of Hogwarts and then goes and does that? I don't mean that in an offensive way, but like Milton
No,
is
no,
not,
I mean, you know,
Milton is fiction. Do you know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
if I wanted to
And
start
Donald Sutherland in Animal House said that even Milton's wife found him boring. I think that was the.
But I mean, it's like if I decided that, like, because I like Star Wars, we were going to start a realm of Jedis, but we didn't carry lightsabers, didn't go do stuff, but we kind of just took the name, or we did carry lightsabers, whatever. Like, how different is this from cosplay? Like, how
that's
different
happened. There was an instance, maybe, I don't know, 2013, 2014, maybe, where enough people wrote down Jedi as their religion on the UK census that it actually like made it past other.
I like that. Good for the United Kingdom. Let's we're a jumble here, and that's all our fault. I'll take it as my fault. Let me quick read the 7 tenets and then we can continue forward. Number 1, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. Makes sense. 2, the struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over lawsuits and over laws and institutions. 3, one's body, we're hitting a word I can't read. One's body is inviolable. I said it right. Subject to one's own will alone. Maybe take the 10-cent word out and throw a 5-cent word in for people that are stupid like me. Number 4.
Oh, I just not the invaluable word's not the one that bugs me. It's the one's own will alone, which seems kludgy. But
yeah, I can see that. Number 4.
Had that conversation.
The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. Number 5. 5, beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. That one's important because many religions try to turn that one around. 6, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. And number 7, every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. I read those, and what it makes me want to do, and I can do it if we get bored, it makes me want to read the 10 commandments, which are, hey, dig me, worship me alone. If you worship something else, you're going to the bad place. These make sense. But again, I just go, nah, not interested. Satan, don't need that baggage.
All right. I mean, I have a lot of questions. I'm sorry.
All right.
How do you define reason? How do you define justice? How do you define those two things? Because I don't know that these are universal concepts. Like I like
Yeah, I
to,
mean,
because we like to believe that like, and I don't want to turn this into like a what the fuck is wrong with this country thing, but like this is a country in which like when people got here because of Martin Luther, they decided they could make up any branch of Christianity they could, right? And so when people got here, they just made up every time they found something that didn't work for them, they went, fuck it, I'm going to do my own thing because I'm an individualist and blah, 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 right? So now you have 1,000 sects of Christianity that don't all talk to each other. But the function, the actual function of religion is to impart culture. That's the function of it. Like, not I want to say fuck all the God stuff because that's the top of it. But the reality seems to be that what we're trying to do is condition people to have a belief system that inculcates a certain value system that allows them to move forward and be, and as a society, a group, whether that group be 10 people or 10 million people, to be able to interact with each other. And so if you guys are splitting apart because of little tiny things, how does this actually, and what's the point of a libertarian having a religion if the religion's major function is to talk about how people interact with each other and train them to interact as a society so they can move forward collectively? Like how does like
Yeah, because libertarians are technically fuck everybody but me.
right, like so
yeah,
I'm
and
you know
the libertarian leaning stuff gets a little weird because libertarians would, I presume, would mostly be like, well, the whole separation of church and state thing is a moot issue because the government should be so small that it doesn't, actually dictate anything to religions, right? I mean, I think they'd prefer religious supremacy to government supremacy, right? Or at least they'd allow it to happen because religions aren't government and government is the thing they have a problem with.
I mean, is that actually true though?
I think.
Well, instead of speculating on what they might want, what about the
I mean,
crux
it's
of
just
the
like if you
question?
look at how it functions in the way that conservatives try and push things through in this country, it's always we're going to cut social services, and then those social services need to be picked up by the church. So then you need to be people who, whether they believe or not, get funneled into church systems through food programs and shelters and things like that, and
Mm-hmm.
then they get drawn into that religious community. Well, if that religious community is teaching stuff that I don't agree with, you have to go and start a competing religion, right?
So coming back to the original, well, one of the things we started, so the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple, you said the differences are one tends to be more right leaning, one tends to be more left leaning. But in an actual sense, like, can you give me an example of what something that one believes that you don't believe?
I
Or tell me more. I guess here, if you're part of one group, how does that part of how does your being part of that group help you I rather, other than just like giving you a list
Well,
of tenets to live by, how does it help you socially, business wise, economically? Like,
well, in
how
terms
does
of
it move you
yeah,
forward?
yeah, yeah. Well, in terms of like, sense of community, I can tell you one thing, like during the pandemic started and everybody was we'd been used to going all over the country hanging out with each
Mhm.
other. We have these huge networks of friends everywhere now. And the
Mhm.
pandemic hit, and me and a few of our other friends got together and we stood up a website called the Satanic Estate, which is this
Hmm.
kind of virtual, it's not it feels kind of like a point and click adventure thing. Like it's got different rooms and a map, and every room has its own video feed where whoever's presenting is broadcasting into the
Mhm.
room. People show up, they log in, they've got their own little chat windows, and there's rooms that they can just go and talk to each other. It's this cool little site that we set up, and it that really allowed everybody in that community to stay together for the last 2 years while we were all
Mhm.
locked in our houses and couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
And that I think that was a really good thing for everybody who was a part of that.
I think that's an amazing thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
I liked hearing that. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of because I mean, in a realistic sense, that is the function of religion, right?
Well,
It's
that's
to
what I was going to
bind a
say.
group of
That
people,
that
you know?
speaks to what you said. It created a sense of community that,
Yeah.
yeah, it is a sense of community. Like you, that
Okay.
was your point.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really fascinating. Oh, fascinating stuff. Interesting. All right. So, sorry. Let's. So,
If you're interested, they do online services every Tuesday.
what's the name of the site?
The Satanic.estate.
To
Okay.
describe what a service is, I mean, I know you said point and click game with speakers. So, what would a
Well,
typical
that's
service be?
the yeah, the point and click navigation of the site is just a cool thing that we were able to do. But the sermons themselves, well, I say sermons, they're not really, it's more like a salon. Like, look, generally one of the ministers will lead and they'll give a short 10-15 minute like presentation about, okay, here's what we're going to talk about, and then they'll have a panel of other people and just kind of discuss. And then
Mm-hmm.
there'll be a chat window on the side for everybody who's watching so they can ask questions too. It's pretty open forum.
That sounds really cool. Hmm.
Um, I want to go sideways. It's actually a return, in a sense, to maybe it's not. I don't know. You may when you said that, and I should have put this in here, but it didn't come to me. That one of the reasons for choosing Satan is as a direct and polar opposite. Like, oh, you're going to say this, so well, I don't agree with this, so we're going to go this direction, and we're going to
It's
use them.
kind of I think there's a lot of people who get into it because they had such bad experiences growing up in various Christian, Muslim, and other denominations,
Yeah,
and that there is that reaction there that's just like, well, the book says that God's in charge, but I don't know. And the whole story of God creates Lucifer disagrees with God, Lucifer gets cast out, like that kind of I know you're God, but I think you're wrong, and I'm going to say so anyway, is
yeah,
very motivating to people who feel like they've never been heard.
yeah. That they didn't fit in where they were told to fit in. It's the I don't want to say nonconformist because that is a little, I guess, silly. The idea like, oh, you want me to do this, so I'm going to do this instead. But the way you described it a moment ago, it's like a community. It's like, wow, like-minded people where there's nothing wrong with that as long as they're not hurting anyone else. The thing I do like about the Satanic Temple that I find attractive is when you say, oh, you are going to be this, so we're going to go over here, is I always love when I read in the news that you filed a lawsuit, because when someone
Not
says,
me.
like right now, Roe v. Wade is about to get overturned, and I believe the Satanic Temple has a challenge going, saying, "Hey, we have a right by our
I
religion to
think
bodily
they
autonomy."
I think they still have one going in Missouri. I don't know if they have any open lawsuits on the abortion issue right now. I'd have to
Well, you
double check
filed
that.
other, like, we're going to
If
put the
you
10 commandments here, so we're going to put Baphomet here. Where like there's always a counter, which I appreciate. The idea that certain people say we're going to shove our religion down your throat, and you say, oh, you want Bibles in schools? All right, we need the Satanic Bible or the Satanic coloring book or whatever it is. It's just a countermeasure to say look, if you guys want to do your bullshit in your house, that's fine. But if you open it up, then we're going to bring our bullshit to the table just to show you how absurd it is that you have your bullshit on the table. But the thing I like about that is that it is a lawsuit. It's what I just said. It's not you going out and actively going door to door and saying, let me talk to you about Satan. It's you're putting your bullshit in my face, so I'm going to show you how absurd that is with my bullshit in your face. And the reality of it is, if every religion would just shut the fuck up and let people be themselves under their own roof, everything would be fine. It's the whole mine's better than yours. You need to listen to me, worship my God, follow my rules. And I love the video that went viral a couple of weeks ago. The woman, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. That you guys both saw that video. You had to have.
I didn't.
Oh my God, what is wrong with both of you? Google woman, she's you're like, I don't read your Bible. I don't give a fuck. If you want to be a Christian, that's great. It's a great little rant.
Is this Anna Kasparian?
I don't know.
From TYT? Was she at like the Senate hearing or something? Was it like
I think I did see that one.
Right, you guys are talking about your book as if it's like this thing, and I don't give a fuck about your stupid book.
Yeah.
Because you're okay, I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that. That was good.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be with everything. Like, I don't give a fuck about your Satanic Temple. I don't give a fuck about your Xenu. Whatever you want to do, if you're not hurting anyone else, that's fine. It's when you start legislating your God on my
not just that. And I would be remiss to not mention that a few days ago somebody tried to light the Satanic Temple's headquarters on fire.
Well, you kind of had that coming because, hellfire flames, they're trying to give it a sense of hominess. Where's that in Massachusetts? Is that in Salem? Did you guys go join the witches?
That is up in Salem. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Is there a witch headquarters there too? Or do they avoid Salem due to the history?
There's a statue of Samantha from Bewitched. There's a whole right in the town square. Yeah.
Oh, she was so beautiful.
Salem's cute. It's adorable town.
So I mean, again, this comes back to when I say like, what is reason and what is justice to you guys? Because like in this country, there's an assumption that when people say, well, it's in the Bible, that somehow means that it's true, because this whole country's been kind of like, we just accept these things as fact. But if you actually dig into them, it's like, well, like what we call Greek mythology wasn't mythology to them. It was religion. It was no different than what we do with Christianity or Islam or Judaism or anything else.
Don't say that other one. They don't like being challenged.
But like, and I wonder, like, because you guys did get a coloring book into a school system or something, right? Like, I wonder how many Muslims have sued for the same thing, right? Because like when we say freedom of religion, like this country was theoretically founded on the idea of freedom of religion, but this place is turning into a place where we make fun of Sharia law, but this is turning into a theocracy.
Yeah.
Right, it's very much turning into a theocracy where the Bible becomes the root of the laws. And in many ways, the Bible has been. If you go back and read the founding fathers stuff, right? Like the Bible is like, even though most of them didn't really believe, they kind of put it in there.
I think that's kind of the Bible taking credit for stuff that it didn't really think up, right? Like whenever they bring up the golden rule, it's always just like, well, that's been around since Confucius. Maybe
yes,
claiming authorship of that idea is
so much of the Bible is other lore, just compacted into a different book.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Yeah, see, I would be very curious because like it just seems like again, I'm sorry, like if I keep as my father would say, beating a dead horse, like when the community and culture and religion have a purpose. They have a function that literally ties to economy. I know we want to do all this God stuff, right? But like what it really is about how do you get a whole bunch of people to get along with each other, interact with each other, and so there's all these tenets in place.
But I think it is important particularly in in something that's going to go and call itself a religion, that there is some kind of founding story there, right? So everybody's kind of speaking the same language. You need everybody using the same symbols in order for them to have that conversation back and forth.
Absolutely. Right. So what is your founding story? What is the founding story for you guys?
In the overall like Satan mythology, like what is the mythology of Satan?
And like what are you basing these things on, and where does the common language that you use come from?
A lot of it does come from literature, because honestly, the devil doesn't show up in the Bible a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a couple parts. There's the thing with Job, and that's all anybody remembers, right? There's not a whole lot in there, and most of the when you go out and you ask anybody about what they think hell is like, most of it they're getting from Dante and Milton and
right,
and so pointing to that and saying, well, look, these are the stories that it's more building on top of and saying, okay, this book is kind of lost its shine, it doesn't hold up anymore, let's kind of do a sequel. Sort of,
okay. Isn't that what the Book of Mormon was? That was part 3. Kinda, the Torah, the New Testament, and the so this is
but there's no claims of magic eyeglasses or angel Maronis or getting your own planet when you die or magic underwear. None of that.
Well, this speaks to, it just popped into my head a moment ago. It speaks to what you said about the sense of community, and this is going to be personal. It's going to sound slightly insulting, but I don't mean it to be. So I'm just putting that warning that when I hear you talk about sense of community, it finally clicked in me, like, oh, this is what I went through in high school when I wanted to fit in. I never felt like I fit in, and then I discovered heavy metal, and I would go to these heavy metal shows, and that was my sense of community. I was like, okay, now I wear my hair a certain way, and I wear these torn jeans, and I wear a jean jacket because I'm cool like that, the Canadian tuxedo. So when I see like the documentary Hail Satan, and I see the members, I sort of feel a kinship and a distance. And what I mean by that is I get the sense of community because that's what I went through in high school with the heavy metal, feeling like an outcast. And, oh, there are other people that feel exactly like I do. This is good. But I outgrew that. And the other thing is, well, the reason I describe my hair and the torn jeans is when I see the people in the Satanic Temple, I have judgmental thoughts because I'm human and humans judge. I'll just own up to them, like, yeah, or you didn't need all those face piercings. Like, or you could just, not dye your hair, 10 different colors. Like you could sort of, like, I grew up and maybe I became a conformist. Maybe I became, Holden Caulfield's worst nightmare.
Well, I think there's a lot of, especially with people who are, coming into these kinds of organizations from somewhere, because just by virtue of being, the Satanic Temple and kind of an open and relatively accepting community, you get a lot of people who are, like I don't know the actual numbers, but I know that like the proportion of LGBT people in Satanic Temple is higher than average.
Well, it should be, considering how Jesus,
because you get all these kids who are like them. Well, yeah, you get these kids who are like, they grow up in Christian households and they're gay and they get kicked out and then they're homeless for a while and they show up at temple stuff and they're like, what can I do? And then there's a community there who's willing to help them. And it doesn't matter how weird they look. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that, and that's why I'm going to call myself for being an asshole, because even as I'm saying it and digesting it, it's like, well, that could be the Satanic Temple for them. What heavy metal was for me. It could be a good stepping stone. Doesn't mean they need to. It's a good place where they can find themselves.
Plenty of people have been really involved for a while, and then, well, I'm still a member, but I don't really, and they become kind of the partial Catholic. They'll show up on
that's kind of what I was getting at. I came at it from an asshole judgmental point of view, saying, hey, I outgrew heavy metal. Why are people in the Satanic Temple? just a fuckhead thought on my part, where of course they like you just said, it's not that you outgrow it, because I can still look back on fine, like if like an Iron Maiden song comes on Sirius XM, I'm like, ooh, but if I try to
Well,
listen
right,
to an
but
entire
also
album,
like
I'm like, ooh.
when you were a teenager and you first heard Iron Maiden live and you listened to it a billion times
Yeah.
over and over and over. Yeah, and eventually you stop listening to it as much, but it's still there in your head,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah.
there. So okay, yeah, I answered my own question by being an asshole and then apologizing for it, hopefully. So sorry for being an asshole, because yeah, it takes time to figure shit out. But all right, so moving on.
I mean, again, like I feel like I'll make some parallels here, right? I'll become the spokesperson for the entirety of the African diaspora here in this country, right?
Diaspora or monolith, because you are black people, so that means you are
Right.
all one.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, there is a sense of this idea of separation. This is why, like, I was jumping on about like the Church of Satan versus Satanic Temple versus. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is like when you actually start to get into what it is that culture and religion and its actual function is. Like, if you take a bunch of boys who are black who live in the inner city, let's call it, right, which is code word for Negro land, right? If you take a bunch of black people,
Don't forget Hispanics.
right, exactly, right, colored folk, right? So if you take that and then you train these boys in the ways of the, say, spiritual systems that would have been quote unquote native to our people, because we didn't come here as Christians, right? On the boat we weren't Christians, and the way Christianity was taught to us was taught in a way that completely benefited another group of people economically, right? That was literally it. Like, there was no reason for black people to become Christians other than to train us to then believe something that made our servitude reasonable, because when we died we would get the big castle in the sky, right? And so you can take a bunch of black Christians, you can train the boys, and you can make them wear kente cloths, and you can to change their names, and you can get them to go through these rituals and all these rites of passages and all this stuff. But if when they walk out into the world, there's no mechanism in place in which that education is actually going to benefit them and not make them outsiders in any kind of economic game or any kind of thing like that, or doesn't give them any sense of like, we do this and we do this, like, it basically ultimately fizzles, and what you have is Christianity in within with kente cloth. You know what I mean? You have Christian, you have a Bible wrapped in African colors, right? Like, it doesn't actually do anything except become like a clubhouse. And I'm
Well,
not saying that to make fun of black people who do that, because that's just one step. But it seems to me like you guys are like at step one at what this is, and I'm curious, what is the like, if you're not, like, what do you do for
well,
work?
okay. So I think I do this for work, but I would say that like
Okay.
uh this Satanism is a rejection of this kind of Christian theocratic ideal in the same way that Santeria developed in the Caribbean
Sure.
to preserve the African traditions by putting that veneer
Sure.
of Christianity over
Absolutely.
it, and Santa
Absolutely.
Muerte in the same way
Yep.
in Hispanic culture. And I think those three groups are all doing the same thing. So in a way, I think a lot of what you see in Satanism is because all these other old religions that people still have as part of their family stories or whatever uh, were demonized by the church. People wanting to pick up these traditions and saying, well, okay, I have to use this Christian symbol set. Where can I put what piece where?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, like, I feel like I don't have a lot of. I mean, I know some Santeria people, and but what I see even there is that there's a commonality of language and practice, and there's common foods, and there is a common language, but there's also a common sense of like, and this is what I mean when I say, "What do you do for a living?" I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory sense. I mean, like, if I were to join the Satanic Temple, right? how would that positively affect my life beyond giving me a set of beliefs that I could live by and putting me around a group of people who will not argue with me when I put forth those beliefs? Like, beyond that, what is the benefit from a
Well,
cultural position or an economic
I was
position?
going to say economic, because what you're making me think of is my first question is, it seems like it's funny that you mentioned the LGBTQ community. It seems like Satanism would be something you'd have to keep in the closet. Like, you wouldn't want to put it on a job application. You wouldn't want to project it because,
Unless Satanists own businesses, then
right,
you hire
because it
other
seems like it
Satanists.
would do more harm than good. Yes, you have a sense of community that you can meet with in private. So I suppose the goal for the temple is to expand and become accepted. And then it goes back to what I said. That's a pretty fucking tough hurdle to overcome. So you've got your work set out. Uh, God bless you for your efforts. Um, but yeah, and I guess Barrett and I are on the same page, wondering where are the benefits outside of community, and do you feel you have to I don't want to say hide your identity, but keep it under wraps in polite circles?
there are plenty of people who do. I'm far and away from being one of them at this point, but uh, there are definitely people who do, and they have good reasons for that, and that's fine. But I have seen. I mean, there is a very collaborative, creative culture that tends to happen
Right.
with
Okay.
TST groups, because a lot of us are already gothy kids, which is just how we've been wired. So there is a whole lot of collaborative projects, like standing up the Satanic Estate was
Right.
one project that was, you know,
Absolutely.
good for everybody, and everybody got a lot out of it. And there has been, you know, monetization there, in the sense that you know, somebody will do a presentation, and then that video will end up going over to the Satanic Temple TV, and they can make a few bucks off clicks just having it up there. That kind of thing is great.
I mean, I asked this because, like, and again, like, not to make this, and I'm not really, I hope this doesn't come off like an attack, because I'm really just asking because, like, if you take something like the Nation of Islam, right, which I know people have a lot of problems with old Elijah Muhammad and Farrakhan and all that stuff, right? And but let's not go down that particular road with it. But what the Nation of Islam did was retrain black people to not give a shit about European standards. That's what they really did. He changed people's tastes. He said, listen, we're going to eat bean pies. We're going to eat this. We're going to eat this. We're going to do this. We're going to believe this. And the white man is the devil, right? Now, for you guys, that's a cool thing, right? But for black people, it's like the white man is the devil. And by doing that, what he did was he immediately divorced black people from this idea that success meant training ourselves to work for some white guy. That was the function of it, right? He changed the taste, he changed it to something that black people could control, monetize, and so you could be a part of the Nation of Islam at its height, and you could run a business in a Nation of Islam community and rely on no one but Nation of Islam people, which is kind of what the Jewish people have done. Like, I grew up near Highland Park, and I used to live in Highland Park, New Jersey, and there's a huge Orthodox Jewish community there. And my belief in even talking to people who run businesses there is that if you open a business in that 1 square mile town, you will do fine if nobody else buys from you except the people in your community, right? And that is actually the function of it, is to, like, to me, the Nation of Islam, it's like, okay, right, white man, devil, blah, 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 black people going to do this, and we're the chosen ones, and whatever. Okay, whether you believe that or not, what he really did was create a whole bunch of things that kept a lot of black dudes out of jail, kept a lot of people doing stuff, got them walking a path, caring about each other, supporting each other's businesses. And you can look back in the 60s, the Nation of Islam will be standing on a corner, yelling and screaming, doing all the stuff they do, and the cops would not touch them because they actually had power. They had real power, right? It wasn't just like, yeah, we have these meetings, we have community. They had legitimate power because they became an economic base.
Okay,
And
before you go any further, you keep saying had. what happened? And I asked that from a place of genuine ignorance.
I think they still do. I just am not up. I don't know. I've never been part of the Nation of Islam, so everything I know about it is academic, and I don't know anything past 1990. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like I just don't know, but I believe that their community is still super strong. I believe that they take people in jail, and the recidivism rate of the Nation of Islam, people who convert in jail and come out, is super low. And because what they've done is they've created a place in which they do not need white people's money or support to survive, which means that they don't have to change their behavior when they walk into work, which I have to do, right? Like if I walk into a job, and then, like you said, if I was a Muslim, right? Like not a Nation of Islam Muslim, like a Muslim, right? Not whatever, you know what I mean, right? I would not want to put that on a job application today because I know that statistically speaking, chances are the vast majority of people in the company are Christian, and they would look down on that. But what Elijah Muhammad did is create a place where you didn't have to do that, where you didn't have to lie on your job application. So that's really what I mean. Like when you guys are talking about a counterculture and you're talking about like you have this, you built the website, and that is an amazing, that was the first, I was like, yes, fuck yeah, that's exactly what the function is, right? Because if you can create a system in which the people who are considered quote unquote outsiders can actually function without having to lie about what they believe, you know what I mean? And they can rely on each other to do these things, and they don't need other people's money to support them. That is actually the legitimate function of religion and culture. That's what it actually is for. So I keep coming back to this, like, what is your next step in to create something in which you guys don't have to fucking lie about who you are, and you can believe whatever the fuck you want to. You can have 90 earrings and nose rings and rainbow colored hair and fuck whoever the hell you want to and still make a living, because the white Christian American culture punishes you anytime you step outside of it. And you know this, Nathan, because you stepped outside of the culture and you're a good looking white guy. You know what I mean? And they punish you for stepping outside of the system.
Yeah.
So what is the Satanic Temple doing to create something in which the punishment that you guys get for being that, because you're already isolated, right? Like you're already like once you accept it, you're literally not part of the crew. You go to a Christian place, people are gonna jump on you, yell at you, they're gonna call you names, they're gonna be scared of you, they're gonna say, "Don't let my children play with that guy. He believes in Satan," blah blah blah, as if they don't believe in Satan. Right? As if like believing in Jesus doesn't mean you don't automatically believe in the other thing, right? But like all this stuff. So like I would be curious to see what you guys are doing to create an actual economic base that you can thrive from and not rely on Christians for their money, unless they want to come
Well,
give it
I'll
to
I'll I'll
you. You know
let
what
you
I
know
mean?
how the book sales go. We'll see where we're at,
That's funny.
right?
That's actually, how is it doing? Like, do you find a lot of support from your community in that sense?
I have so far, yeah. Book came out what 10 days ago, and it
Hmm.
spent most of those days at number one in new releases in atheism on Amazon.
Nice.
There
Yeah.
was a very brief maybe day where the hardcover version was at number 10 on the bestsellers in atheism, which was weird.
Nice.
Because I pop open in Amazon and check the rankings, and there's like me and Hitchens and Dawkins. I'm just like, I don't belong on this list at all. This is not
Crazy.
okay.
Fuck that. I like Hitchens a lot, but I like
Yeah.
him a lot. I think he's funny and brilliant and snarky. And I dig him as well. I did, like, as a cat. Like I thought he's super cool in his own way. But like I think that I mean, see, to me is the real thing, right? Like if you can write a book and your community supports that book, so you can make a living outside of having to rely on any other group of people, and still, so you can be in the culture but not of the culture, because you created your own little enclave where you
Mhm.
can actually make a living and survive, and everybody in there, by joining, they do that. That to me is the real way to make a
There
difference.
has
You know what I
been
mean?
like I'm not the first member of DST to put out a book by a long shot.
Hmm.
We've got Shiva Honey and Lilith Star, and those are the
And according to some, J.K. Rowling.
You're an asshole.
I'm not. They equate Harry Potter with Satanism. That's what they do. They say Harry Potter's a wizard. That's the same thing as Satan.
Oh man,
Rowling wouldn't do well at a TST meeting because she's anti-trans, and we've got way too many trans people in the community.
I'm not going to go down that path because I have not read a single thing of hers that suggests she's anti-trans. She's pro-woman, and I think there is a very interesting difference between what she says and how she is perceived.
well, this goes into a very different turn of events, but I'd be curious to see what you think about this, both of you.
Well, I want to, before we go down another path, I
Yeah.
want to ask this. And this is a quick question. You talked about having a heavy LGBTQ community. Barrett brought up Black Christians, which has always confused me. Hey, this book, this Bible says that you are less than, and that's why you're slaves. And now join this religion. What the fuck? How is the Satanic Temple with people of color? I mean, because I know
there's actually a pretty substantial BIPOC community, especially in the southern states.
What about Hispanic? Because the same thing. Hey, Spain's going to take over and kill all the indigenous people, and now you're Christians. Those two things, Black and Hispanic members of Christianity, Catholicism, it just boggles my
I mean,
fucking mind.
it's really not a hard sell to the BIPOC community to go say white Christians are bad people. Like, that's a pretty easy sell.
When Elijah Muhammad in 1963 was saying the white man is the devil, you could turn on the TV and see plenty of proof. Right?
Side note, complete side note, and I should have said this earlier. I would like it pointed out that I was the one that taught Barrett's son to say white man is the devil. Barrett had neglected his fatherly duties. How old was he?
Oh, he was a kid.
I know, but it was 2008, 2007.
More than that, what you did was he laid on the ground and had my son put his foot on him and raise his hands like
and victory arms
and say the white man is the devil.
White man is the devil. I taught him that. You had neglected your fatherly duties, so I had to step in.
The thing is that, like, you don't have to teach Black people that.
Well, apparently I did, is my point.
He already knew. He just didn't say it, but it's not like he didn't know.
He hadn't been taught to verbalize it.
Right,
he understood.
Right. He'd say to me, it's funny. I talked to a friend of mine the other day who's in an interracial marriage. We were talking about some stuff. He goes, yes. And then I invited the devil into my house and married him. And I thought it was really funny that she used that language. But again, that is the language of the Nation of Islam. That is a small group of people that has become an actual, like, what Elijah Muhammad did, love him or hate him, is kind of incredible. It's like the guy who started the Mormons. Like, that's amazing because a lot of people,
Joseph Smith, L. Ron Hubbard. I mean,
but again, what they did is they created an economic base that they could control and had people there. So being part of that community actually, I mean, I think.
Okay, but then I take it back my last comment, because Scientology, from what I know, it doesn't have an economic base. They have more of a, hey, take these courses and give us all your money, and people lose their houses.
That is their economic, their economic base is fleecing their members, and then fleecing them like everybody else does the slow fleece.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They do the fast one. They're like, this next course is $500. This next course is $1,000. This next course is $1,500.
That is something to be said for like, if you look at the way that TST does their branding and fundraising and stuff, it's never compulsory. It's never, but it's, hey, we've got this lawsuit. We're doing a fundraiser. We're selling merch.
Right.
I know you said you didn't want to mix politics and religion, but that I talked about this with Jake, and my favorite thing from the January 6th hearings was when the other day they kept saying, and they made it seem so serious. I don't know if you heard any of the quotes or why they're so serious. Like, Donald Trump bilked his supporters out of $250 million. He said he was going to file lawsuits to fight voter fraud, but he knew there was no voter fraud. He asked them for money. I'm like, yeah, we all knew that in November and December when he started saying, give me money, and sending out 5 emails a day. Everybody said he's going to pay off his golf courses. The literature literally said.
Well, but that's why they did that at prime time, because they wanted to get all the low information people to see the overview.
I suppose. Yeah, I guess that's the thing, because they didn't. But it was so funny. It said, This money will fight a lawsuit, fine print. 95% will go to the Trump organization, and maybe 5%. I mean, it was like they were just like
I mean, it was
everybody
whenever
knew that's
they
what he
were
was doing with the money.
taking
So the
they were
fact they tried to
taking
make a big deal out
donations.
of it.
Weren't they taking donations to build the wall? Right,
Well,
like the
let's not go
wall.
down this path.
I
But
mean,
my favorite
you
thing is
know,
the guy in Florida teamed up with Bannon to take
yeah,
donations to build the wall.
right.
They bought a yacht instead, and then Donald Trump pardoned Steve Bannon, but the horns guy in the Capitol sat in jail. Like everybody that supported Trump and went to January 6th sat in jail, but Steve Bannon, who took their money, got pardoned. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful system. And my favorite thing is there are still dumb fucks out there who want him to run and will vote for him. It's like, I wish I had his
again,
power. I
again,
mean, it's
you
insane. But now we're way off topic, and maybe we
no,
should start
but
wrapping
well,
up.
but it'll we'll bring it back around. But again, this is one of those things that I say, and I don't mean this to like make fun of my Caucasian brothers, as Cornel West would call you guys. You know, my Caucasian brothers and sisters. The love of Donald Trump is its culture stepping up to protect itself. Do you know what I mean? Like whenever white Christian culture is threatened by not being able to define what other people believe, right? This is what it means to be smart. You go to these schools, do this. Success means this means this. Like whenever people start to redefine what those words mean for them individually or as their own separate group and start to move forward, white culture historically in this country comes up and crushes that thing with a blinding swiftness. And what I mean is like over the course of 10 or 20 years, right? But in some places, like, and it's not just black people, like, but how many black towns have been stomped on? We talk about Black Wall Street, but there's hundreds, you know what I mean? And the whenever like why is there a knee-jerk reaction? Like we go back many years now to Matthew Sweet, right? He got dragged in the car in Texas. Like why is there this knee-jerk reaction to anything even when white people do it outside of acceptable white Christian culture? There's a backlash and it's huge and it's generally violent. That's what it is. And poor white people have always been the security arm of white culture, always. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah, and this is a
you
sideways
know,
thought, but this goes it's in line with what we're talking about in a sense. Um, I don't mean this as a joke. This might come off like a joke, but I absolutely mean it. That's why I don't believe in God. That's why, like, oh, I'm agnostic. Nah, no, I can't be. I'm an atheist. Like, I know Donald Trump would have cancer right now and be dying if there was a God. If there was a God, Donald Trump
unless,
would.
but would there really be with white Jesus who grew up in the desert? You know what I mean?
Surrounded by
Like
Matthew
really,
and Paul and
right,
Peter. Yeah.
right. Like I mean, realistically, was like if you believe in white Jesus and you believe that God is a white man who's the brother of Santa Claus, and if that's what you believe, then Donald Trump is their Martin Luther King. And I say that not tongue in cheek. Like I
Yeah.
know it sounds crazy, but he's their like if he comes back into power, which I assume if he doesn't, somebody worse than him will, and in 10 or 15 years, when this place looks like what we make fun of when we talk about the Sharia, the Muslims stoning people and doing all this stuff, this country's going down that way. In 15, 20 years, this place is going to be a straight theocracy, right? And you might see Donald Trump talked about in the same way we talk about Martin Luther King. Like seriously, like he's a certain group of white people's real savior. And I don't think that other white people really see that. Like white people who grew up with any kind of diversity in their upbringing, who don't have these kinds of preconditioned beliefs about superiority or inferiority, I think that they don't see the danger of the people who don't have that.
Well,
You know what I mean?
this is going to get too messy to get into, so we should
It
sign
may.
off.
It
But the
may.
crossed fingers hope I have, and this is going to sound extremely stupid. I know how dumb these words sound coming out of my mouth, and I do not have faith in this. I do not have belief. I do not sit back and go, everything's going to be fine. My crossed fingers hope is I saw a TikTok again. I know it sounds stupid. A guy laid out a spreadsheet. It went viral. He built a spreadsheet, and he went through COVID numbers and election wins and losses, and talked about like people in Trump counties died at a rate of what, 3 or 5 to 1. And he said, if the Democrats don't fuck this up, which they will because they're Democrats and they fuck it's like it's there is hope for the future because assholes are dying is basically the point of the spreadsheets. When he talked about death rates and where these people died, there is hope for the future because assholes are dying. All right.
And what, like 2024, that means everybody who was born after, what is that, 2006 will be eligible to vote.
It's a terrifying thought.
Yeah, but I mean, if those kids are actually motivated, and a lot of them are because of, you know, LGBT issues and abortion stuff, and if they turn out, there's a pretty good shot, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's that if, you know.
And if they don't fucking prop Biden up, hey everybody, I want to be president for even longer. Oh my fucking good
yeah,
Lord.
I don't know. Like I like Joe Biden as just a person. He is old.
I have nothing against
But,
him,
like,
but you just can't run him again. He should have been like, he should step aside. He should make the announcement and say, you know what? I had a great 4 years. We needed to get out of the Trump shit. I'm going to step back.
I did that. I'm going to step back. And
yeah, that's what needs to happen.
Kind of like,
because
was at some point Larry Lessig ran for president, and that was his plan. It was on his campaign that he was going to be a one-term and just, I'm going to fix shit and get out.
All right. Promote your book, promote your website.
One last question. One last
God
question.
damn it.
Sure.
In terms of what you're talking about with the children, with the people who could vote, in the Satanic Temple, how many people are raising their children in that? Because that's actually like, if you guys started, not that you, I don't know that you do or don't, but
he
if
just said they're all gay, they don't have kids.
I have a 3-year-old.
All right, but you're raising your child in this?
Well, not really. I mean, I'm raising my child, and you know, when most of the time if I you know, go to like a meetup or something, it's at night and the meetup is at a bar and I don't bring the kid, you know.
Right, but I mean, are you
and then if it's
kid with the seven tenets?
She's 3. We haven't talked about any of that stuff yet.
My daughter's 9.
Into Paw
we haven't
Patrol
talked about this shit yet. Other than some people believe this, some people don't.
She's really into Moana right now, and I have some
Great
tattoos from Maui, so we've talked about that a bit.
And that's the way it should be, instead of indoctrination. All right, promote your book, promote your website.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm writing over at onlysky.media right now, which is where you can find the blogging I've been doing. I haven't done any blogging while I've been working on the book, but prior to that, I did a whole bunch of stuff about the Ukraine conflict when that started up, which are interesting reads if anybody wants to go check that out. The book Needs Must is available on Amazon. If you look in the atheism rankings, it should be right there.
And then the website.
Price to sell, $9.99 on Kindle.
Nice.
All right. Again, Barrett said this a couple times. Now it's my turn to be a dick, not dick. Price to sell. My book is $5.99 on Kindle. So right there, you call yours price to sell. If you want a work of
$19.97 for the hardcover.
Why don't you guys pair up and do a special? Two of them, you get both of them for $14.
Do like a humble bundle.
That.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the website for for mass, I suppose is a word?
So if you're interested in checking out the Satanic Temple's online venue space thing, it's thesatanic.estate.
Thesatanic.estate. All right.
I also have 2 seasons of a show over on the Satanic Temple TV called An Ongoing Necessary Pursuit, which is 2 13-episode seasons of me interviewing people very much in the same vein as this.
All right. Barrett, the reason we haven't recorded in a while is you were on tour. You just got on tour behind the album at What's Up Next. You've got festivals coming up over the summer, and it's the Katie Henry Band, found at katiehenrymusic.com. Talk away.
katiehenrymusic.com. Really, there's so many dates. We have a bunch of Jersey stuff. We have a bunch of Midwest stuff. So really, I would say too much to mention. Go to the website if you can. Again,
Well, what you did on Facebook, and I stole it, is you
Mhm.
had like a promo that said, boom, all the dates. So
Yes,
our last episode, I just threw that right here and it showed
absolutely.
all the dates. It wasn't just one. So if you put another picture up,
Yes,
that's
that
Katie
will.
Henry. And then there's
Yes,
antargoodwin.com for all things
indeed.
musical director, bass player, guitar
And
player now.
and I'm releasing a single in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
That will be coming out. I'll talk more about that as it gets
All
closer.
right.
But
Well,
yeah,
we'll hold it there.
yes. But
I can be found at nathantimmel.com. The book I mentioned in passing is called We Are 100. You
mhm.
have Kindle, paperback, and hardcover on Amazon. Hardcover, I think, is 16 or 17 bucks. Paperback is 10 bucks. Kindle is 6 bucks, 5.99, whatever. Audiobook is everywhere. That is not exclusive to Audible or Amazon. It's on Apple Books, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you get your audiobook, you can find We Are 100. And I think, did I say I can be found at nathantimmel.com? If I did, I've just said it twice. All right, Jack, thanks for hanging out with us.
That's been great.
Yeah, man, it's good.
Always good
again,
talking
man.
to you.
Yes.
All right.
Very cool.
Everybody, fingers crossed that this does not get eaten and that we get to broadcast this one.